Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and we're to a random review. Today's random review is Orders to Kill, which sounds like a giallo, by Anthony Asquith from the year 1958. This is one of Indicator's Region A only releases. There's been 3 so far. This is spine number 273. I would recommend Requiem for a Village, even though this is available in BFI in the UK. That's spine number 257. And Love on the Dole with Deborah Kerr. That's spine number 256. I would recommend both those films, but Orders to Kill is the best out of the 3. This has automatically fired its way into my top 15 Indicator releases, because this is a phenomenal film. Made in 1958 by Asquith, who never really gets talked about as far as kind of really good filmmakers. He did a few Tens Rattigan. He did the original Browning version in 1951. He did the original adaptation of The Winslow Boy, which David Mamet did later. He did lots of kind of World War II, almost propaganda films, if you like. But this one, well, it's a bit schizophrenic, which I'll get into, but this is a wonderful film as usual, thick booklet. And for the extras, you get an interview with producer Anthony Havelock Allen from 1990, which is 111 minutes, which is a career-spanning audio interview. Then you get a wonderful 25-minute video essay with Matthew Sweet, who is one of my favourite extra providers. He does a lot of Studio Canal work, amongst others. That's called Open Wounds in 25 minutes. So you're actually better not watching my video on it, buying the film and watching Matthew Sweet's 25-minute video about it, which is far more informative than what I'm about to tell you. As I say, it's a little bit schizophrenic. At 112 minutes, it's too long. It starts off with a very dry intro, which a lot of these kind of World War II films have, about a mission. So there is a lawyer in Paris who works with the resistance, but 4 out of the 9 agents that he works with have turned up dead. So there's a suspicion that he's actually a double agent and given information to the Nazis. So they want him eliminated. They don't really have anybody kicking about that can go to Paris and do this job. So there's an airman, played by Paul Massey, who is going home after bombing missions to Lillian Gish, his mother. And the officers feel like maybe he could do the job. So they speak to him and he kind of persuade him to do it. So he goes home for 48 hours and then he gets shipped to England for training and then going to Paris. The film opens in very Shakespearean manner of a hand with what we assume is blood. The film's in black and white, getting washed off in the rain, and that cuts to Lillian Gish's hand, and she's talking about her son coming back. granted, the difference in age between Paul Massey and Lillian Gish, he should actually be his grandmother. Maybe it is, and I've just kind of missed that out in the film. I think it is his mother. So he goes to see her and says, "Oh, he's got a special job to go back to, and he's going to be important, but obviously he can't tell her what it is." So the opening scenes probably could have been cut down because there's no real need to have them. Particularly, Lillian Gish doesn't really play any role in the narrative whatsoever, really. But then he goes to England for training, and one of the officers there is Eddie Albert and James Robertson Justice, who we always like to see James Robertson Justice. And then this goes into semi-serious, but there's kind of a bit of humour. I did say the film's a bit schizophrenic. There's one scene where going through a kind of training house, and behind the doors are these beautiful, not quite Dali-esque portrayals of Nazis and one of Hitler, where it's target practice, and there's also like innocent people. We see that in films all the time, but this is kind of almost, it's a little bit odd the way how beautifully they're painted. And then because he's been a bit loose with his bullets, by the time he gets to Hitler, he just run out of bullets, and James Robertson Justice said, "What are you going to do? Spit in his face?" And there's a practice run at having a cover and an identity, and then there's a practice interrogation, which he obviously doesn't do very well at because it's his first time. Eddie Albert is kind of dialed back by Eddie Albert standards, but he has a couple of explosive moments as he's a bit passive aggressive with Paul Massey just because of training. So then we finish with the training section of the film, and we go to Paris, and it's actually shot in Paris. It's not on stages or Shepperton or something like that. It is actually in Paris on location, which gives it a feel of authenticity. So Paul Massey is introduced to his contact in Paris, but again, she knows nothing of his mission or the details. That's just contact. He has a false identity, and because his maid at home taught him French, he's obviously useful because he can speak French as well. So he kind of bumps into his target in a restaurant, and kind of befriends him. And this is where the real meat of the film begins. It's a very seemingly kind, friendly older man. He warns him that there's going to be a raid, so it's better to be off the streets. He's too far away from his flat, so he offers that he can sleep in the lawyer's office overnight until the morning while the patrols or the raid's finished, and that gives him a chance to go through his papers to see if there's anything incriminating, which is not, spoiler alert, which is not, and he finds a cat. Now obviously in wartime Paris, unfortunately, like, cats and dogs were eaten as meat, and it was like too expensive to keep pets really, or keep cats. So the fact that this lawyer has a cat, is he just being so nice that he can't get rid of his cat, or is he getting another source of money, perhaps from the Germans, so he can keep a cat? Cats form a very important part of the film. There's actually a nice piece in the booklet about how one of the cats cost the production an extra £2,000 because they couldn't find The cat went missing for a night, so they had to delay shooting, and that cost the production company £2,000 while the cat was having a night in the tiles. So, because Paul Massey's also a rookie at assassinating people, even though he flew bombers, but we'll get to that, he begins to question, is this guy really guilty? Am I going to be killing an innocent person, and can I kill an innocent person? So again, this is the part of the film that turns into almost like a film noir. It almost turns into a philosophical exercise of that thing. Killing somebody by your own hands, or killing thousands of people just by pressing a button. Is one better than the other? Or so he's struggling with this. So he goes back to his handler in one of the best scenes in the film, and he pretty much blabs. He breaks pretty much all the rules and tells her about his mission and why he thinks this guy's innocent. He's got 4 reasons, which I won't go into. And of course she is obviously furious at him for breaking the rules, but she's furious at him for breaking the rules because her fear is being caught and tortured, and she knows she won't be able to stand torture, so she'll just tell whatever she knows. But it's a tremendous scene because some of his reasons, again, I'll just talk about the cat. I won't talk about his other reasons for thinking the guy's innocent. But he's got a cat and he looks after the cat, and he can't bring himself to kill the cat or get rid of the cat or sell it to a restaurant. And she's like, well, Himmler likes cats and Goebbels likes art and Hitler likes music, so does that kind of let them off because he happens to like a cat? And again, it's that thing of the most evil people in the world will still have something that will make them seem ordinary or will make them seem less evil, but does that change all the other things that they've done? So that's a wonderful conversation. And again, she brings up, you didn't question your orders when you were told to bomb cities, and you weren't that good at being a sharpshooter with your bombs that you only killed Nazis and collaborators. There's a chance that you killed a cat with your bombs. There's a chance you killed women and children with your bombs, but that didn't stop you following orders then. So why are you questioning intelligence that they've been working on for months or years? You're in Paris for a week and you're questioning whether you should kill this guy or not because you think he's innocent because he likes his cat. It's a fantastic scene. So he kind of gets a second wind, if you like. He kind of refocuses. But by this point, he's met the family of the man, the daughter who likes to dance and entertains him with a dance. But it's this, is he going to kill him? Is he not going to kill him? And it ramps up. I won't go into that, whether he does or not, or whether the guy is guilty or innocent. But the last third of the film is absolutely wonderful. And again, Asquith, if you look at his films, are generally kind of fairly flat and not a lot. It's more about the dialogue rather than the shot composition and the lighting. But the last third of this film is absolutely stunning. I should say the Blu-ray print is absolutely immaculate. And the last third of the film has a real film noir feel. Matthew Sweet talks about the fact it went to Cannes in 1948, but it didn't actually go into competition because it was viewed as an anti-American film, and it was actually controversial when it came out. But again, you'd probably have to watch the last third to kind of find out the reasons why. But it just turns into, as I say, it turns into a film noir, and it turns into a philosophical conversation about, again, you don't question orders when you press a button and thousands of people die, but you question orders when you actually have to see the person face to face. The violence in the film is fairly brutal, and it doesn't spare characters or the audience. So even for 1958, it is actually quite brutal in places. And again, it just asks really complex questions, and it goes in kind of areas that you perhaps wouldn't have thought it will go. But again, the first half hour is kind of standard World War II kind of men on a mission film, and kind of plods a little bit. But the last 90 minutes, especially like the last 45 minutes really, is absolutely wonderful. And as I say, I would highly recommend. I think it's already in the pantheon of essential indicator releases for me. The other two Region A films are good, but again, one of them you can get in BFI and Region B. But Love on the Dole with Deborah Kerr is wonderful as well, but I can't recommend Orders to Kill highly enough. Absolutely fantastic. Lots of familiar faces. The guy who actually plays the target to be killed, Matthew Sweet, brings up a nice bit of Doctor Who trivia in his video essay. If you're a Doctor Who fan, you can watch that as well. And there's a small appearance by Lionel Jeffries as well. I mean, what more can you want? Lionel Jeffries and James Robertson Justice. That's top drawer. All we needed was Nigel Green and Andrew Kerr, and we'd be sorted. So thanks so much for watching this random review of Orders to Kill, which I suppose kind of sounds like a Jean-Claude Van Damme film as well. And hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitude Ronin from Solitude Ronin Films, saying farewell.